Are you thinking about buying a house on land, but you're not sure how financing works with that? Well, today I'm bringing in a financing expert. His name is Carlos Ramos, and he's going to tell us everything about it. Come on, let's go. Welcome. Today we're doing something a little different. I am talking to my friend, Carlos Ramos with Highland Mortgage. Hi, Carlos.
Hello. Thanks for having
Hi.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You sent me an email the other day, and it was all about rural financing. And I said, this is a great topic because I've been doing a lot of content on my YouTube channel about can you buy land? Is it still available? Where can you buy property kind of close to Tampa? And of course, that's the Dade City and San Antonio, Florida area. You can still get homes on land. Like I just did a video the other day, Carlos, and there are over 60 properties, single family homes
Wow.
on at least 1 acre or more. And that was just the other day. And then I added a property. So there's definitely more than that. So you can get wide open spaces. You can get elbow room. You don't have to live in a compact subdivision if you don't want to. I mean, a lot of people do want to, and I'm happy to help them too. But sometimes there are some challenges when you're buying land. And that's why I brought you here today. So why don't we just kind of go over a bullet point list of some
Yeah,
things, and then when one kind of strikes me as okay, this one is something that we really need to dig into, let's do that.
works
Go
for
ahead.
me.
Well,
Yeah.
introduce yourself, obviously.
Hey, everyone. My name is Carlos Ramos. I'm with Highland Mortgage. Been a loan officer in the Tampa Bay area for 23 years right now, going on 24. So it's been an interesting ride in the mortgage and real estate industry, and love being here with Allison to help you out.
Well, so all right, what's that list that people should be concerned about?
Well, let's talk real quick about what rural actually means, because a lot of people, I think that when they hear rural housing, they automatically think it has to do with farmland, and it really doesn't have to do with that. I mean, rural could be many things, especially in the Tampa Bay area. I know out by your area, it's has more land in other aspects of the area, but like, as long as it's outside the major city limits, depends on the population areas, and there's just it's so different from being in the city. But the financing that can be out there has to be looked at differently as well. So there's just a lot of things that people, I think, look at it in the wrong way, or just as soon as they hear it, they think, well, I don't want to live in the country. And that's just really not the case all the time?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because right now, San Antonio, Florida, and Dade City, Florida, I mean, we're really just within about 10 minutes of pretty much, I mean, maybe it's closer to 15 minutes of really anything you want to do because Wesley Chapel is just literally right there.
Yeah. And Wesley Chapel can be considered, so like one of the most popular programs for the rural housing is like the USDA loan, right? So
Hmm.
this loan is very popular, but USDA can be done in multiple areas. Like Wesley Chapel is very populated right now, but a home may be qualified for USDA in that area because there's a map that we have to go by. Because back in the day, before Wesley Chapel became the way it is right now, it was considered rural areas
Yeah,
and
so
a
it's
lot of houses.
because of East Pasco County was part of that USDA. Why don't you explain a little bit of the benefits of the USDA loan?
Yeah, so USDA loan has 0 down payment. It's nothing out of your pocket for a down payment. Now that
Ding,
doesn't
ding, 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 ding.
yeah, now
People
that
like that.
doesn't yeah, that doesn't mean you don't buy a house with no money. It just means you don't need money for a down payment. So, and this program has lower mortgage insurance. The rates on it are very competitive and a lot better than the other programs now. But with this program comes income limits. The property has to be in the USD eligible area, which there is a map for that. We just type in the address. It is a primary residence only program. And the thing with USDA is it's a great program, but they're very conservative. So this is not a program that is for everyone. It's for a lot of people. It's just not for everyone. It's something that we would have to run through the system to see if you may qualify for. And you can go as low as a 600 credit score.
Wow, that surprises me.
Yeah.
That does surprise me very much so. Well, okay, so what are some of the other things that a lender is looking for when or looking at in terms of underwriting exposure?
Yeah. So, we got, when it comes to underwriting, they're going to be looking at the property conditions of the home, whether it has public water or city water. We have, private wells, sewers, which in most areas out there, I'm going to assume, other than Wesley Chapel probably, is, it's gonna be it's probably, wells. So
Well,
a lot of that has to be tested, the distance to the house, all that stuff is gonna be happening. So water quality testing is gonna be important. Septic testing, that's gonna be important as well. And then if there's any shared well or septics, there are certain guidelines that we have to follow for that type of property. So it's very important that if a client or yourself as an agent find something like that, it's great to speak with myself to say, okay, here's a shared well. This is what we have to watch out for, and I'll tell you what that is.
right,
So,
because we don't need to freak out because there might be a shared well. Because a lot of property before it was divided into individual parcels would have been a family piece of property typically, and then people just who lived around it would share the well. But then as time goes by and people decide to subdivide and sell off, then they're still using that shared well. And they didn't have an agreement when they were a family necessarily using it on the same larger parcel. It's probably a lot of things that you find. And you mentioned something about distance with the well. That's well and septic, the distance between those two, I think is what you were referring to because you don't want to have the well too close to the septic system because the idea is that you don't want to contaminate the well
exactly.
water. Right. And so whenever somebody buys a piece of property, it can be, I actually don't have a lot of land. I'm only on a third of an acre. I have a septic system. So, and city water, but you always should inspect a septic system, whether or not you're doing, a big parcel of land or just something within the city limits of San Antonio, Florida, because you want to make sure it's in good condition. Funny story, when I bought this house and I was very, very, I mean, this was 25, literally only had my license for a few months. And we bought it off market from somebody who was finally getting ready to get rid of the house. I was very new in this business. I did not have my septic system inspected. And guess what we found out later, Carlos? The drain field was under the detached garage. So when it started to fail a couple of years later, um,
Ooh.
so those things do happen, but not if you have the system inspected because you will have a written report. They locate the drain field. They check the walls of the septic system, the lid of the actual septic tank, and if anything needs to be fixed, that's where we ask the seller to make adjustments, and hopefully they'll do so because it's really in their best interest. Because every buyer is going to want to have a working well and septic system for sure. Anyway, sorry to go off.
All right.
I digress. It will, and all right, and so in terms of well testing, that
Yep.
takes a couple of days, so that's not something that you wanna wait till the end of the transaction,
No.
or you want to do that, you wanna give yourself some time because these things take time. Your home inspection period is usually somewhere between 7 and 10 days. You wanna go ahead and have those tests done then, but you don't want to wait till the end of the transaction to do that. Just leave yourself enough time because you can have a longer inspection period, but you need to get the results. You can have it inspect it, you can have the well water test it, but you have to wait for the results. And there's only a handful of people that really do that,
Correct.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I have run into before is where there's a beautiful house on the property, maybe I think this property was maybe 5 to 7 acres and had a beautiful main house, had an ADU, accessory dwelling unit,
Yep.
and I think it had a barn, and then it also had an older mobile home on it. And boy, did we run into some problems.
Yeah, I'm sure you did because they're not going to get valued for certain things. You probably ran into the issue of no value for the manufactured home, whether it was livable or not. So we do have to watch out for rural homes because that house, it may be beautiful, but it may be an older house. Then you got to deal with the large land parcels and the mobile homes, detached garages. So a lot of that does come into play. So it's good to be working with a good agent like yourself to catch all that up front, and that way, at least we can hit that before there's any issues to say, look, is this going to be good or bad? And with the appraiser and everything else with the financing part of it, you don't want to have any surprises.
No, and so when somebody is interested in a property, even before they go and visit it, being able to reach out to you and say, "Hey, take a look at this listing
Right.
online," and just give an assessment of what you think what could come up in underwriting that we need to be looking out for because, yes, it still may be doable, but our offer may be different than what much different than what their asking price is based on what the actual value of the property is in terms of the eyes of an appraiser and the lender, in tandem. Because if
Yeah.
they can't give value for those things and somebody thinks that their remodeled 1950 mobile home on the property is worth an extra 150 and it's really just no value, that's not going to be great.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in terms of property with land and the insurance when it comes across your desk?
Yeah, so it's gonna be wild because we have to look at, is it in a flood zone, which in most cases in a rural area, it's not really. I haven't seen it. I don't know about you.
No, no, like, the house is usually not in a flood zone. There might
Yeah,
be flood zone on the property, but
not the
typically
house.
we're not seeing it on the house, right?
Yeah. So then, now you have to look at the roof, the age of the roof to see the condition of it. And, because insurance is going to be looking at your wind mitigation. Is it going to be enough to cover the property for that? You have distances from fire stations. So they're going to look at all that to determine whether or not they're going to provide you homeowners insurance, which is very important because here in Florida, as you know, it could get a little costly when it comes to homeowners insurance. And that's going to really dip into your debt to income ratio. Just want to make sure you qualify for that because you may think, okay, I qualify. And then it's say, hypothetically, we get an insurance policy that comes back at, I'm using worst case, just saying 6,000 a year. That's a big difference on, somebody that's only paying 2,000 a year. So
Right.
we want to keep an eye on all those conditions, flood zone, roof, wind, distance from fire stations and other aspects of it. So
And I wanna mention that when it's like one of the first things there's so many things that have to be done simultaneously when you buy a house. It's not just, step 1, step 2, step 3. There are a lot
yeah,
of things that happen simultaneously, and one of the things in addition to getting all of your loan application paperwork filled out is to also, at the same time, like, literally after you go under contract, go ahead and make that phone call to the insurance company and have them run you quotes. I have contacts that I refer people to that do an excellent job. And then once you have shot those quotes, then you can present them to you, for example, to see if it fits within their budget of all of the expenses, the taxes, insurance, mortgage payment. But you don't want to wait because the underwriting process, it's not like you put in an insurance application on Monday and then on Tuesday you have an answer. It can take a while. And
yeah,
again, so that's something also like along the lines of doing the well water testing. I mean, you want to leave a buffer. And then once you say, okay, I'm good with the price of it, like I accept that price, then you bind it for the future effective date, the closing date of the contract. Because in Florida, especially, we get those storms brewing out in the Gulf
yeah.
or they're not even there yet and they'll stop writing all insurance and that is going to sidetrack your closing. So you go ahead and you bind it in advance with the future closing date. If the closing date changes, you can change the effective date. But if you don't have it locked in, you may be out of luck for closing and you're going to have to wait until the insurance companies get back on board writing policies. And that could, I mean, we saw it. It took like 30, 45 days because they wanted to make sure that the structures weren't damaged,
Yeah.
when we had those storms. So that is something. So thanks for mentioning the insurance, or digging into that. Oh my gosh. The other thing people need to be concerned about is the like utilities, internet. I mean, that doesn't affect their loan, but
No.
quality of life really.
Yeah. Yeah, because people are gonna wanna like for me, okay, I always tell, Letty, my wife, I'm like, "Look, if we ever come into money, man, I wouldn't mind moving to a farm and being in a rural area, but being away from everybody." But then also I'm a city boy, so imagine me with no internet, because I'm in the country, and that could be a problem. No cell service, that could be a problem, you know?
It's less and less likely these days, but it wasn't that long ago out on Blanton Road in Dade City, and we call that the Blanton area of Dade City, that it was, I think, CenturyLink. So it was really kind of like a dial up. And then they had almost hotspots that, I mean, within the time that I've been in real estate, I have definitely seen those situations happen, and people, even when they weren't working from home like they are today, people were still working from home, and it definitely had an impact on whether a buyer wanted to be in that particular property. But things technology has progressed so much
Oh
that
yeah, oh yeah.
most
Cell
most of
towers
the
are everywhere.
properties most of the properties, especially this property I have at 16224 Iola Woods Trail, in Dade City, it's 10 acres. They have everything. You have all your streaming, you have your internet, everything is great. But, well and septic, and you'll find gas as well, but
Well, I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
not natural gas in some of the rural areas. You will have a propane tank,
yeah.
and sometimes it is above ground, or you can have it buried, but you can have your appliances hooked up. If you're a pseudo chef, you like to cook on a gas range, you can definitely do that, but it won't be natural gas in many cases. Um,
And now that could make a difference for some people. Propane versus electric, like you said. I mean, it could make a difference for people. Have to get used to, okay, my whole house is on propane versus, I mean, all that stuff is going to come into play, like you said.
Well, and sometimes you'll have a mix of both. So, like the house on Iola Woods Trail, that has a gas cooktop, but everything else is electric. Because when they built the house, when the general contractor who built that house, that's how they did it, because they wanted a gas cooktop, but they didn't want everything to be gas. All right, so let's run through the common mistakes buyers make with
Yeah.
rural homes. Just go down that list real quick.
Okay, assuming the property qualifies for every loan program, that's so important. FHA may restrict on acreage. Conventional loans could be the same way. Not really going to know until we get the address to the property and see what it looks like. Not checking USDA to see if you qualify for that. It's important. A lot of people will forget about that program. Skipping well water testing, I think that would be a huge mistake.
Yeah, for sure.
And plus, to be honest with you, it's most likely going to be a condition of the loan to have that done. So that's not going to be the best thing to do. Ignoring septic inspections, that's another one. Most
Never do
likely,
that.
well, and septic is probably going to be automatic.
Well, never, I'm sorry, but never even avoid doing a regular home inspection
Oh,
and the WDO, which is wood destroying organism, termite, mold, that kind of thing. So sorry.
listen to listen to your realtor, Allison. And never, I totally agree with that. Don't shy away from home inspections or termite. I'm not in Florida anyway. Not checking internet and cell service, totally probably a preference for certain people, but just definitely make sure you see a Frontier, Verizon, Spectrum, whoever it is out there that's going to work for you. Insurance, overlooking that is a huge mistake. Definitely do that up front. I mean, that could make or break a deal, so
Yeah.
and to your wallet. Too much land, acreage does make a difference. So it's very important. Like you can't come to me and say, "Hey, I'm buying 50 acres and I got this one little land and I want to try to do a USDA loan." That could be a problem. So we have to keep an eye on that. Not
Wait,
understand.
let's stop right there for a second.
Okay.
Also, people have this dream of, land and what it looks like that they might see on TV, and
Yeah, they've been
it's
watching
a lot of
Yellowstone.
maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance though too. So you might think you want 5 acres, but really you just want 3/4 of an acre to an acre. I mean, you might think, 5, "Oh, I think I should just have 5." But when you're out there mowing every Saturday for hours and hours, or having to hire someone to do that,
Yeah,
you need to put that into your budget or into the time. Maybe that's what you wanna do with your time, and that's fine, but don't forget that there's a maintenance issue with the land, because if it grows up,
good point.
that's not
Very
gonna
good
be good
point.
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's watched Yellowstone and now they all want to be farmers.
That's a hard life. It is. It's a
It
hard
is.
life.
It is. You're absolutely right. That could be an added expense.
If you have any questions about how to finance the purchase of a home, be it on land or in a standard subdivision, be sure to reach out to Carlos. I will put all of his information in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment. My name is Allison Newland. I'm the broker owner of Platinum Properties of Florida in San Antonio, Florida. I am here to help you, so let me.